I'm Mrs. R, your co-video substitute teacher. Today, we're going to talk about ways that we can do some math at home. And you can always sit around and do math, but maybe we can figure out a way to make it a little more fun and to come up with numbers that we can use. Because if I just asked you to come up with numbers yourself, you're going to come up with the easy ones. You're going to be like, oh, I'll do 2 plus 2 and maybe 5 plus 5. And maybe we could get what we call random numbers. That means that you don't already know what the number is going to be. Just like when you're at school and you get a worksheet or your teacher puts a problem on the board, unless you have psychic powers I don't know about, you don't know what numbers are coming. So you have to see them and then do them. So a good way to get random numbers is with dice. Now these dice that I have actually came from a Yahtzee game, which I just knocked the lid off of. They also come in boxes, by the way, but Yahtzee is a great math game. If you have this, play it. You also can find versions of this game Yahtzee on phones, tablets, and online so that you can play with friends over phones or, like I said, with your family. So once you have your dice, then you're going to roll them to get numbers. Now, somebody out there is already going, I don't have any dice. I don't have games that have dice in it to take it out of. It's okay. There's still other way to get dice. You can get virtual dice. For instance, I put an app on my phone and it was literally just called Dice. And look, I'm rolling dice. Look at that, isn't that fun? Really cool, right? So I can get my numbers to come up. There's also things like this that you can get through like Google Chrome and things like that, Edge. So you can look up other fake dice online. And that way you can have them to get your numbers from, even if you don't own regular dice at home. But if you do own them, it's probably going to be better to use those than waste the electricity or use your mom's phone. And she's like, where's my phone? And I'm like, oh, they're dice right now. And she's going to be like, no, it's a phone. It's not dice. Then you get to show her and then she'll be here going, oh, let's roll the dice. Maybe, maybe not. Point is, first step, subitize. Some people pronounce it subitize. But this big word simply means that you learn to look at items and immediately count them. You just know how many are out there. For instance, you can look at the dots there, and I go, 4. I just look at them. So you can roll this. I've got it set to 2, so I can see 2 of them, and I just look over. 7, that's the number 7. You can also decide, there's this particular one for dice, allows me to add other dice, so I can just see, boom. Now I've got 3 of them out there. Gets a little harder. So if you have 3 of them, maybe do all of them. Go 2, 6, 1. Or you can have them all together and go 9. That's even tougher, but it gives us up levels. So as you get older, you'll definitely want to use more dice to do this. But that's pretty easy. We're just identifying numbers and we're learning to really look real fast and count in our head. Like I said, subitize is the word for it. But for some of you, you're old enough that this isn't anything for you. So the next thing you can think about is doing the actual math with it. So you roll 2 numbers and it simply becomes a math problem. 6 plus 2. You can add more dice and do 6 plus 2 plus 3 or whatever 2. But we're going to start with 6 plus 2. You can also make a subtraction problem out of this, but remember the smaller number must come from the bigger number. In other words, if you were writing it out, you would write the big number first. So this also practices greater than or less than, right? If you looked at this, which one's the greater number? The bigger number is clearly the 6. So I know that the bigger number is going to come first, and I'll write 6, and then the subtract sign, and then, oh, I thought I wrote that down for you, but I don't have that. And then the 2. So that way you can do your addition and subtraction with 2 numbers really easily. If you have one of these dice roller programs, or maybe your parents have like really big dice, there are ones like, this is really well, that is what's called a D12. Anytime you say dice, you say D for dice, and then you say the number of sides. Regular dice have 6 sides. These all have 6 sides. We call them D6. This is a D12. It has 12 sides, meaning I'm going to be able to get a number all the way up to 12 on that. So I can do that and make even bigger numbers to do my math with, in addition and subtraction. If you're in older grades and you've already started multiplication, same thing. You're still rolling dice, real ones or your fake ones, but now you're multiplying. Times 1, 4 times 1. That was easy. So some of them are going to be a little harder. Some are going to be a little easier. Okay, that's actually even easier. Wow, 1 times 1 is 1. But you get the idea. Keep rolling them up. Here's another thing. Definitely try doing it fast out loud, but it's also really helpful to write it down, to actually write down the numbers. So when you see the dice, this is what you would see. You know this is the math problem you're doing in your head, but write down the actual number. 6 plus 5. 6 times 5 if you're older, right? That way, too, you're setting yourself up, once you start writing them down, to do other things. Like, let's say we have 4 dice. So I'm going to add 2 more on my little program here. And now I can do 2-digit numbers because I'm going to count these as place values for 10s and 1s. If you're not old enough for that yet, don't worry about it. Skip that part. But I could think of this as the number 25 and the number 21. And now I have to add 25 plus 21. So that is another way to do it. If you're even older, you can actually multiply 25 times 21, right? Remember to make your window pane boxes. Multiply each little section. We'll talk more about this later, by the way. If you guys don't know what we're talking about, we'll get to that. And then add up each box. But those of you who already know that, that's something you can keep practicing doing. Now, once you get that mastered, you can do what's called a multi-step problem. These you see in word problems a lot. So if we use the multiplication idea, let's say, I'm going to roll these. 5 farmers had 5 pigs each. How many pigs did they have? Well, that means it's going to be 5 times 5, right? But one farmer lost 4 pigs. 5 times 5 is 25. Subtract 4. Now, you don't actually have to make up a word problem. I'm just saying when we see multi-step problems, they tend to be word problems. So you roll your dice, pick any 2 of them. If it's easier, I didn't even know they could stack on each other in this app. That's kind of weird and cool. Okay, now all I want to do is keep doing that. I didn't even know this was going to be fun all by itself, but turns out it is. So pick 2 numbers that are going to be what you're multiplying, your times. 6 times 3. Take that and then add 5. Later on, you can try 6 times 3, subtract 5. But these are ways to give math problems. You're not wasting any paper if you're just doing it in your head. But like I said, it's not a waste of paper to write down your numbers, particularly if you're in the lower grades. It helps us practice it. And when we write, our hands are connected to our brains, and it helps us pull that knowledge up into our brains. It's really weird that writing can help math, but it does. When you write your numbers, it helps your brain make super connections all throughout it. You get smarter all the way around. You get better at writing. Your hand gets stronger. That's weird, isn't it? But it does. It gets stronger. Your hand gets stronger and your math skills get better. Now, this is all great and good, but can we make this into a game in some way? Well, of course we can. We can always make things into a game. If you have somebody to play with, a partner, then you can try speed rounds of subotais. So you might even try adding a whole bunch of dice in here, right? And you would shake them up, and the first one to yell them all out right. 1, 2, 5. I got all 3 of them right, and I was first. So I'm going to get a point for that, okay? Now, you could simply write points down on a piece of paper, but I have a checker game. I don't know if anybody else at home has checkers, but if not, you can use a piece of paper and color little blue blocks and yellow blocks and cut them out. You can use those as your counters. So just like at school, we have counters for our numbers. I'm going to use my checkers. So if I get a point, I get to put a red counter in front of me. If you get a point, you get a black counter in front of you because this is the colors that came with my checkers. You might have, ask your parents if they have poker chips. They're not real money or anything, but people who play poker pretend they're money just for fun. But those are another thing you can use as a counter that your parents might have you can play with. You also might have coins. So you could just say every coin is a counter. You get a point and I get a point. So you slide those out there, and then at the end, you count up your points. Counting is still another kind of math, kids. And then see who has the most. So that's the Subitize game. You can also use that, write up an actual worksheet. If you have a friend that's like near the same age, take a picture, trade them off, see which one gets the worksheet done first. Set a timer or do it on the phone and go, I have 10 problems and you have 10 problems, right? And I'll be like, go. I'm like, Okay, now, time. I was first, but I have to get them right. So for every one of those problems I got right, I'm going to get a little counter, right? So I had a worksheet. Maybe I rushed too much and I didn't actually get very many done, right? I got them done, but I was just trying to guess because I figured I would get it, but I didn't. So I only have 5 points. You got done later than me, but you got all of them. Look how many counters you have. Wow, there's just a whole stack of them. Then you won. So this is a good way that we can use dice to kind of have some fun with. We can use dice to do our math with, and we can use dice to do a fun with math game with our friends. Remember, I know it's so hard that you can't hang out with your friends in person, but you can try to set up a time where your parents each don't need their phones, so you guys can use the phones. Maybe when they're cooking dinner or something, if they're not trying to read a recipe off their phone, then you can use it during that time. So you could call your friend, or you might be able to get online if you both have computers and join up in Facebook Kids or something like that where you can talk to each other. But this way, you can have fun doing math, have fun playing with the Dice app, because now all I want to do is see if I can stack them again. This app, by the way, was just called Dice, D-I-C-E. I got it in the Android App Store. But there's going to be lots of programs. Random Dice Generator is a name they go by. Dice Roller is another name they go by, and you can look up online or on phone apps to get your own. And by the way, you older kids, there are bigger dice. There is, oh my gosh, that says D1000. I don't even know. Oh, place value. If you look here, we have a hundreds and a tens and a one. So let me get these 6-sided dice out of the way. That means I can roll a number up to 1,000. In this case, I rolled 449. So I can do it again and get another 3-digit number, practice adding 3-digit numbers. Because these are dice a lot of people don't have at home, but we can get them online. And we can look at the place values, see 3 digits for hundreds, 1, that's a ones place, and 2 means our tens places, right? So we have like 100 blocks and 10 sticks and 1 little 1 blocks. And we can do this to make numbers and put them together, add them up, all right? So I hope you enjoy playing with the dice, and I'm going to get off here and see if I can stack those dice on that dice rolling app again, because now that's my hobby. You have a good time.